we have too many talented players that come through this league that are championship worthy. What I mean by that, if you take them off a team that is a championship quality team, replace me with Kobe with Shaq. I don't win a championship. You don't think I could carry the Lakers to a championship? Like, I've never had the opportunity.
Correct.
I felt like if I was put in that position to win a championship, I damn sure would show up and do what I do in the playoffs to elevate my team to that level. I just never had the chance. So do I get diminished because I never won a championship?
Right.
All right, so you guys just saw the clip. Tracy McGrady had his takes and stuff. We're not going to beat around the bush here or try to hide the truth. Obviously, we're two Kobe fans, and I'm assuming that I'm going to have to be the more reasonable Kobe fan here because I think Dario is going to be a little bit emotional about this topic. But so we've heard T-Mac's perspective. Bro, what do you think about this? Because I've given my thoughts with the video, but now I want to hear yours.
First, I think T-Mac needs to be tested first. That's the very first thing that I'm going to say. He definitely needs to be tested. Because what just frustrates me about guys is I don't know if Kobe passed and then people just grew balls, maybe because
I do have a hard time seeing them say all this if he was still alive.
Because when I know that T-Mac and Kobe had a whole interview together side by side when Kobe was talking about how he beat him in a one-on-one and stuff, and his balls was tucked. That's all I'm saying. But whatever. All right, to get to his actual points, it's definitely the guys that didn't win complaining on why they didn't win, and it's just frustrating. It's you're taking away, and it's anybody can say this because it's Shaq at the time was the best player in the world, so yes. It's anybody by his side seems like they help him win, but you had guys like Penny Hardaway who didn't. You had guys Wade could only do it once.
Usually what people will say, if you say that, the rebuttal to that, the argument against that is that 2000 prime muscle-bound Shaquille O'Neal is not the same as Orlando Magic Shaq, or the same as Miami Heat Shaq. That's for sure. I actually think that Orlando Shaq and LA Shaq are pretty comparable. He was averaging 30 points per game in his second year in the league, second or third year. So
the greatest part about the Kobe Shaq thing was Kobe being the closer and being able to help Shaq at his weakest point in the game.
100%.
Towards the end of the game, that was when Shaq was the worst. It's not that he was the worst. It was just that they forced him to be the worst because you can't shoot free throws. So and a guy like Tracy McGrady is a great player, and he I don't even if it was my Hall of Fame, Tracy McGrady wouldn't be in it. And it's not because I don't think he's a great player. It's just because I think the NBA lets anybody become a Hall of Famer.
It definitely has the lowest bar of all the major sports.
Yeah,
sure.
I think if it was the NFL, Tracy McGrady wouldn't be a Hall of Famer. He'd be probably in that time frame a top 5 shooting guard of that decade when he was healthy.
But with that being said, I know you know this. There was a few year stretch where the conversation was T-Mac or Kobe, who's the best in the league,
on one end of the court, really, because it wasn't defense. Because we weren't talking about T-Mac or defense, and that matters so much when in these conversations. It's not like Kobe's defense didn't completely help the Lakers in that span. Either way, I think it's. And LeBron's kind of part of the reason for this because I feel like he's trying to make it seem like not winning isn't everything. When
that's literally what started the ESPN segment, is it was a response to LeBron's podcast where that's basically what he said.
It's how can you say that if your whole point of playing that year is to win the championship? Kobe's mindset every single year was he wanted to win the championship. If his team sucked, he felt like he was going to do anything possible to give them a chance to even make the playoffs to possibly win a championship. And then when he saw that the Lakers weren't giving him enough pieces, he started thinking about going other places because he wanted to win a championship. His mindset was always win a championship, and that's that Mamba mentality. That's the difference between a guy Tracy McGrady. He had 10 healthy years, and in those 10 healthy years, he passed the first round once. Him being the guy. He says he didn't get opportunities, but he was on a team with his cousin And he was the second fiddle to his cousin, and he had problems with that. He left in free agency to then
100%.
be his own guy. So you can't say that you didn't have opportunity. And then when you were your own guy, you go to game seven in the first round of the NBA Finals, and you choke the 3-1 lead. You and
the NBA playoffs, yeah, first round of the NBA playoffs.
I'm sorry, I said NBA Finals, my bad. First round of the NBA playoffs, yeah. So it's like, I just don't sorry, boo-hoo. Like,
well, LeBron brought up something interesting on his podcast, and he did bring up players from other sports. He brought up Barry Bonds, which, I mean, is already an interesting one because we know he was on the juice. So it's like there's other reasons people don't give Barry his credit. But Barry, for a while, was known as a guy who didn't perform in the postseason. He was known as that guy for a while. He really redeemed himself later on, because I remember the World Series against the Angels where he was, crushing home runs and stuff. But then he brings up football players and stuff. And I think the thing is with basketball, NBA championships, when it comes to individual players' legacies, is definitely held to a greater value. Like, players are held to a higher standard in that sense. But I think that's valid to a certain extent, because in the NBA, one superstar player has more control of the game than a baseball player or a football player does.
100%.
As great as Tom Brady is, and as great as he is, that's led to 7 Super Bowls, the dude only plays literally half of the game. He cannot play defense.
Yep.
That's not how it works in basketball. You can play both ends of the court. In baseball, you're just 1 out of 9 guys in the hitting rotation. And if you're as good as Barry Bonds and they're just going to walk you every time, or they're even going to walk you with the bases loaded, well, that's not up to you. That's as much impact as you're going to have on the game. So it's a totally different situation, a totally different scenario. And that's why I think it is valid that we value championships more with great players from the NBA. Now, I really like the point you made about Shaq was so dominant that, like, anybody could say that. Because I could be like, oh, if I was teammates with Shaq, I'd make the playoffs. Okay, that doesn't mean I'm great at basketball. Like,
I do have a question for you. Do you think T-Mac, at whatever the hell prime he's talking about, or that we're thinking of him about, would have went to 3 straight NBA Finals with that 08 to 2010 team?
So here's the nuance
part. I don't think he would. I'm sorry. I don't think he would.
I don't think so either. But here's the nuance part about that I think people miss about McGrady. He never said that. His exact quote was, "I'm not going to win a championship." And, like, he didn't say I'm going to win as much as Kobe, because he might not even believe that. Yeah. I do think McGrady would win in 2001 with the Lakers team that went 15-1. I know Kobe performed amazing, but you put T-Mac and Kobe on that same team, surround them with all the shooters, where Derek Fisher's hitting literally 50% of his threes in the playoffs. Yeah. Again, it's just T-Mac was amazing. He was a problem.
I'd go with the 2000 Lakers more than the 2001, only because if you really think, like, if we break down the 2001 season, Shaq had a problem with Kobe trying to be the man. T-Mac already showed that he's that person. He also wants to be. He's Kobe as well. Like, his mindset is, I want to be the guy as well. That's why he left playing with his cousin. So I feel like that same friction is there, and then he would then have to be the bigger person, like Kobe was, to then say, playoff time, it makes more sense to run it through Shaq.
Well, T-Mac wasn't ready. He wasn't that guy in 99, 2000. I mean, if you, even if you want to bring it up, Joe, his backstage.
His best season.
Yeah, in that first championship season, he was still a 6th man. He was averaging 15 points per game. He was 20 years old. Kobe at that point was averaging 22 points per game. So Kobe had progressed a lot more at that point. In the 99-2000 season. And then you just think about that season alone. And here's the part that really gets me. Outside of 2001, where the Lakers just steamrolled everybody and went 15-1, there were pivotal moments in those other 2 championships where if Kobe doesn't come through, they don't win. The case closed.
Yeah.
Game 7, where they came back to defeat Portland, where they were trailing by 15 points heading into the 4th quarter, it was Kobe who performed the best in that situation. He was leading the charge in the comeback. Then in the NBA Finals, Shaq fouls out. Who has to take over that game? That was Kobe. Even earlier in the the first round against Phoenix, he hits that game winner over the Sun. Like, that's a lot of assuming, McGrady, if you're going to have to be filling his shoes, especially coming from a guy who I believe was either 0-8 or 0-7 in the first round. And I'll give you didn't have as much talent, but like, you got to the first round over and over again, went to game 7 several times. So all you got to do is win one game with your greatness. Yeah. And you couldn't do it. And this isn't hating on McGrady. He chose to put himself into this conversation as a Kobe level guy. Yeah. Trying to make the point that championships don't mean that much when looking at legacy. Yeah. So he's doing this to himself. I'm not trying to hate.
Yeah. And my biggest issue is like with Kobe, it's like people always throw the Shaq part of his legacy in his face, but then don't like completely disregard the 3 NBA finals he went to being that guy. And like, sure, he went 6 games with Boston and lost. That was a great Boston team. Like, not a lot of players could do that. Like that, he had 2 careers. Like that piece of his career, a lot of players could not do. And it's like he gets no credit for.
Yeah, I mean,
I wish lost because of Shaq for whatever.
I wish Kobe was still with us, but one of the solace, I guess, that I have from it, just the fact that like Kobe tried so hard to prove the point that he could win without Shaq. And he didn't just win a championship. He won 2. He won 2 back-to-back championships with basically a completely different team other than the head coach and his veteran point guard. But outside of that, it was like a completely different group. Yeah. And the fact that people are still bringing this up as if that never happened, the only success Kobe has ever had was with Shaq, is crazy. On top of the fact that Kobe did everything that he did, and like Gilbert Arenas saying he was the next Pippen while he was averaging 30 points a game, and Pippen's never done that. Yeah,
this stat is thrown around all the time, but it's insane. He's the only player in NBA history to win back-to-back championships without another top 75 player, top 50 player. Like top 100, you could probably say. I don't think Pau Gasol is on top.
Pau Gasol is borderline. Like I could definitely.
Maybe, I don't know. I don't think he's top 100 of all time. Like I could definitely name.
You know what's funny? I have I'm working on a video that 100 greatest players of all time. Next time I do my ranked list, I want to get it up to 100. Have it be like a couple hours long as I describe the list.
Yeah,
I think he's like fringe.
Maybe. I mean, if he is, he's like 98. Like there's no way that I'm.
Yeah. There's been a lot of great players in NBA history, but I love T-Mac. That's the frustrating part about this. Like, I don't want to take a crap on him, but like, it's funny because I even put in my video, like, there is this interview. I want to say famous interview. It was famous when it happened, but now a lot of people don't know about it. Stephen A. Smith and T-Mac way back in the day, and I'll put this in the video. He was on the verge of another first round series wrapping up, and nobody knew whether or not this was going to be the time that T-Mac finally breaks through. And T-Mac vehemently tells Stephen A. Smith, if we don't get past the first round this year, it's on me. And he tells him over and over again, if we don't do it this year, it's on me. And now he's just basically telling everybody that it's on anybody but him, Yeah. And I don't know. I love T-Mac, but I really hate how people do this hypotheticals with Kobe because, like, Kobe had a game against Sacramento where they swept him, where he scored 48 points, 16 rebounds. Yeah. We pretend that didn't happen. Yeah. There was the games,
the Spurs games, they act like it didn't happen either.
And the Spurs talk about Kobe was the guy they were working on shutting down. They had the bigs to handle Shaq. Up until David Robinson retired, they had an array of bigs to throw out, and Kobe was the guy they had a trouble with, which is part of the reason they brought in Bruce Bowen. Yeah,
and people don't even realize, like, so going into that 2001 playoff series with the Spurs, there was a lot of friction between the Lakers and the Spurs. The Spurs had won in '99. The Lakers won in 2000, but the Spurs, I think someone was injured. I can't remember off the top of my head. Someone was injured, kind of messed up the Spurs season. So they didn't feel like the Lakers winning was legit because they didn't beat them. Like, they were the champions. They didn't really get to beat them. So going into that, it was a big clash. It was a clash of the West. And then Kobe, very first game, drops 40 on them and then ends them with the 48 piece and says bye-bye, swept them. A great team. That was a great Spurs team, and it got swept.
And the other thing is, like, Kobe dropped 45 points in game one of the Western Conference Finals. And what people forget is, like, yeah, in hindsight, the Lakers seemed unstoppable that year. But heading into that series, the Lakers swept the previous two teams. But the San Antonio Spurs, they had the best record in the Western Conference.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, they had the best record, I believe, in the league that year.
I think we were the 3 seed in the West, right?
Yeah. And so, yeah, the way they handled them, and that specifically was Kobe leading the way. But people just look at the Finals MVPs. Yeah. People see the numbers Shaq put up and the Finals MVPs, and they go, Shaq carried.
Yeah.
But it was part of the plan, literally part of the game plan, that Kobe did his thing mostly in the Western Conference, because the Western Conference teams were the teams that were acquiring bigs to handle Shaq when the postseason came around. The Eastern Conference teams didn't do that as much. And that's when Shaq went to work in the NBA Finals and took advantage of that. So as much as Shaq was the Finals MVP clearly all 3 seasons, he was the Finals MVP when he took on the East teams. 2 out of those 3 seasons, there is a legitimate argument that Kobe should have been the MVP if there was a West playoffs MVP.
Yeah,
like he was that much of a problem.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
Yeah, I love T-Mac. I think he's amazing. And he's just a weird level of confidence coming from a lot of guys that are, just it almost feels coordinated. Like it's are all these guys working for Clutch? Yeah. Like what is going on?
Arenas definitely is. Like I freaking hear him talk about LeBron like he's God, and then anytime he can diminish a player, like it's pretty quick. Like I don't know. Dwyane Wade, when Kobe was alive, that Gilbert was talking really well about him, and then all of a sudden it's like we got all this hate.
Yeah. Well, did you see Wade's comment? Like Dwyane Wade, he had his own comments about Kobe, but this was about 2010. So now we're not even dealing with Shaq anymore.
People don't know that in that finals, that last finals that they won, Kobe didn't play well. Kobe didn't shoot the ball well. Actually, everybody thought Pau Gasol should have been MVP. That's how well Pau was playing, and Kobe was playing awful. But you never could tell when you turned the TV on that he was struggling, because of his leadership is always there. His intensity is always, that fire is always there. So because he's 8 for 24 from the field or something like that, you could never tell with a player like Kobe.
He was saying that everybody thought Pau Gasol deserved to be the Finals MVP, which is crazy. You hear that every once in a while, but it's a very small demographic of basketball fans who say that. But he said it as if he was speaking for all of us.
Yeah,
like everybody who's sitting at home watching Game 7 of the NBA Finals thinks that Pau's going to be the MVP. The thing that drives me nuts about that is they love to bring up the fact that Kobe shot 6 of 24 on that series, or in that Game 7, which is true. Completely ignore the other 6 games. Go ahead and ignore his performance in Game 5 where he scored 20 straight points for the Lakers. Let's just ignore all that.
What was it, 15 rebounds, something like that? That game?
In Game 7, absolutely.
Sure, he didn't do what he normally does. Like he still gave you 23 points, whatever, but he still gave you 15 rebounds and made sure to take advantage and win on the boards. Like that's how you win championships.
But almost every superstar who's talking this crap, whether it be Wade, McGrady, LeBron, I don't care who it is.
Yeah.
If they went into a Game 7 like this Game 7, they also would have played like crap. Yeah. Because what defined that rivalry for the Lakers and Celtics was physicality. And Kobe's talked about this a lot. One of the big reasons they lost in 2008, and they lost by a lot, so I'm not saying the Lakers would have won if Bynum was healthy, but not having Bynum there was a big deal because he was a rebounder, he was a rim protector, he made the Lakers to a certain extent meaner. And then Kevin Garnett wasn't available in 2009, so we didn't get the rematch like we thought we would. And then in 2010, the Lakers now had Ron Artest, which was a big confidence booster because he was a lot more physical and a lot tougher than Trevor Ariza, who I did love. But I think Artest specifically was a better matchup for that Celtics team. So they're coming into 2010 knowing that physicality is going to define this series. In Game 7, where, this is it. This is the championship. The refs put away their whistles. Okay. Yeah. That was a slugfest. If you want to see the closest thing to 80s playoff basketball, in recent history, it's the 2010 NBA Finals.
Dog
And
fight.
so Kobe shot. Let me just go through some numbers for you. Not to mention the final score was 83-79.
Yeah.
Kobe shot 6 of 24. But you want to know what your Finals MVP Pau Gasol did? Pau Gasol was 6 of 16. Meta World Peace was 7 of 18. Andrew Bynum was 1 of 5. Lamar Odom was 3 of 8. Jordan Farmar was 0 for 3. The only player on the Lakers who shot above 40%, that's the winning team. The only player on the Lakers who shot above 40% from the field that game was Derek Fisher, who was 4 for 6. Other than that, every single player shot below 40% from the field. That was the winning team.
Showed up too, like, and it was like the smallest ways, but he would always show up. Like,
yeah. But that's just one side. Obviously, the winning side. Paul Pierce, 5 of 15. Yeah. Ray Allen, the guy Kobe's defending, 3 of 14. Like, dude, everybody shot like crap because this was one of the most physical games. I don't care what era in NBA history. This game was a slugfest. And what
did Garnett do?
There's just a 8 of 13. He actually held his own. Okay. And he was but KG was built for that. KG was built for
of course. That's why I wanted to know, because I'm like, I feel like he would have definitely showed up for them.
Yeah. But that's the whole thing, is I feel like a lot of people are jumping on the fact that Kobe's not here to just give them that look and be like, really? Yeah. Really? Like, you're going to say this to, like, what happened when we met up? You know, like, Kobe's not here to say that now. So a lot of guys, you know,
like with all of these guys, like, we could say, like, when he always accepted the matchup, and they were in that famous game where T-Mac and Kobe kind of do, like, it was like a possession. I think T-Mac catches Kobe with like a crazy like turnaround or something, and then Kobe dunks and stuff. But like, if you really look at it, that's like the one time that they actually guard each other. But most of the time, Kobe was the one like taking scoring on you and then guarding you on the other end. T-Mac was running from that. Like, it's the same. It's the same way with the Kyrie Irving and Steph Curry. Like, Kyrie was taking on the Steph challenge, but they always had to switch for Steph. And then Kyrie felt a certain type of way about that. It's the same way. Same thing.
Yeah.
Straight dog walking your way.
Well, it's just it's the context. The context is skipped over here. Shaq has 3 Finals MVPs. Don't talk about how Kobe was arguably the MVP of the West playoffs. Don't talk about there's a reason why Kobe shot terrible in Game 7. Don't even mention the fact that no Laker showed up to help him out when he scored genuinely. It was like 20 straight points, and a famous highlight where Dwyane Wade's on looking as Kobe's hitting freaking 3-pointers from Anaheim, and he's going, my God, you can't stop this guy. Now, you know, it was Pau Gasol who was the MVP. The numbers don't even reflect that. He averaged like 10 more points per game based on all the advanced analytics. He had all the better numbers. And it's not like Pau had an epic Game 7 to like sway things over at the end. He was also 6 of 16. Like, what are we talking about?
For LA was definitely not, let's get to Pau to be like, it's Kobe. Like, you're definitely in that offense, like trying to guard that team. The first thing you're trying to do is stop Kobe. Like, that's the very first thing. It was never like at that point, it was clear cut. Like, Kobe's the guy. Like it shouldn't have even been a thought process. Like, Pau didn't even think about like moving forward to get his Finals MVP. He was waiting. He was probably waiting for Kobe. He was damn near holding Kobe to get it. Like, what are you talking about?
I think it's just years of agonizing hearing that, you know, these guys remember, like Dwyane Wade and Kobe. They remember on certain nights I bested Kobe. On certain nights I looked like the best player on the court. But now, in some cases, they're just treated like chopped liver. But I think Tracy McGrady, he's almost like hyped up to like levels that he doesn't even deserve sometimes by some people. Some people are like, oh, well, if it wasn't for the injuries, he could have been the GOAT. And I'm like, you know, it took a little while for those back problems to set in. And there was that whole first round narrative and everything. Like, he was great, but like, no, we're getting carried away with a lot of this what if hypothetical.
Like, and I know this sounds so disrespectful, but this is 100% true. Is Tracy McGrady not the Paul George of that era? Like, how is okay, how not?
I get the comparison you're making. He's too good. He's too good to be Paul George.
Like, Paul George at least like went to the Eastern Conference Finals when he was leading his team in 2014 against LeBron. He would run him to 7 games. He might have won a championship if he would have beat LeBron James.
I knew this was going to happen. Now I got to stick up for McGrady. I knew this was going to happen. Even then, that Indiana team had a good supporting cast. And I totally recognize what you said. A lot of this is McGrady's fault because Carter and him should have stuck together and they would have been amazing. Yeah. But that Orlando team, he did think he was going to have Grant Hill to help him out, who got injured, which was also kind of stupid because even up to that point, Grant Hill did have an injury history at that point. So not the best guy to bank on. There was the rumor about Tim Duncan joining him. Man, that would have been crazy, Duncan and McGrady. But maybe. But I mean, so that was not a very solid Orlando team.
Paul George was nice, like especially before the injury, like before that knee, that foot break, and he still was good afterwards. But like, I remember Paul George being a lockdown, like he was a lockdown defender. He definitely seemed. He was clutch until he had more opportunities. And then I felt like
Paul George is just not anywhere near the score of McGrady. McGrady had all the skills and everything. I mean, I'm looking at his stats right now.
But that's the thing. Put it up on the screen. They're on the same level at all. I'm just saying because Paul George was probably at that time frame when he was in his prime, he might have been like a top 10 player in the league. Like in the mid in around 2013, 2014, like that time frame. I would say, and you would say the same thing about McGrady. I think they were at like that level. It's just to me that early 2000s piece, like there was just better players than that 2000. He's that level. To me, he's just like there. He's a really good player that just couldn't win in an era. Like that was like that's it. I think.
I just think that there's more to it that he's not acknowledging. When he's like, I never had the opportunity. Well, you did, and you passed it up because you had to be the man. Like, did Kobe eventually do that? Yeah, after they won 3 rings together. Like, at least he won some championships and was now like, okay, now it's time to let me do my own thing. But he didn't leave Shaq in his first couple seasons. Like, you know, like they stuck together.
If I was McGrady, I would have probably argued more like, or maybe come from the point like, oh, I wasn't in as good of an organization or had that type of backing. Maybe that would have been more of an argument. But in terms of like opportunity, you did have opportunity. You just
he absolutely did because think about Houston. Does that not count? Because of his injuries, does that not count? They had a team.
Sure, he was sitting down watching it, but Kobe broke his heart then too. Like we act like there's not some type of disdain here. Like Dwayne Wade admitted it after seeing Kobe go to 3 straight finals, 2 back-to-back champions, 2 back-to-back finals MVPs. He was like, "Nah, I gotta call LeBron James up." Like that's what Wade said. I know McGrady was sitting down on the bench watching us cook freaking Ron Artest, and then he did the KD before KD. He said, "You know what? I'm gonna go become a champion with you." You know. Yeah. Well, he left McGrady, and then that's another thing. On Gilbert Arenas, my bad. I'm getting a little hyped.
You're good. I know you're passionate about this. Go for it.
On Gilbert Arenas' podcast, you had Ron Artest there talking about the two, and he was teammates with both of them. And he was like, "I don't know, man. I think at the time Kobe was a little better." He was trying to be nice, but he was like, "Kobe was cooking your ass. I saw it. I was there trying to help you. I went 7 games, and it was because of me, not you. Your ass was sitting there watching us."
2008 Rockets. Okay, listen to this. 2008 Rockets. You had Yao Ming. You had Tracy McGrady. You had Shane Battier, which at the time was one of the best defensive players for Kobe. You know, remember that whole thing where he was always getting his hand up on Kobe's face? I don't know how the hell Kobe was making the shots. He always had Battier's hand right in his face. Credit to Kobe. That was crazy. Credit to Battier, too. I mean, seriously great defender, but Kobe cooks almost everything. Rafer Alston was playing well. Luis Scola. Really great, underrated player, amazing international player.
This is a great team.
Dikembe Mutombo. Mm-hmm. This was 2008. Dikembe Mutombo was the backup, and he was still, like, when he was in there, he was still productive and a still good rim protector, but obviously Yao starting. This Rockets team, with a healthy McGrady, won 22 straight games in the regular season. 22 straight. What happened in the playoffs? They were out in the first round. They lost in 6 games to the Utah Jazz. Like, what is that? In 2009, now McGrady's not healthy. But this 2009 team with Ron Artest took the Lakers to 7 games in the semifinals. I'm not trying to blame him for getting injured. Injuries happen. But if you're going to act like you don't have the opportunities, maybe Kobe had more opportunities because he actually could be healthy. If
But-
you were out there in 2009, they really could have used you in a series where they took the Lakers to 7 games.
Facts. And another thing, even with injuries, I feel like you can't talk about injuries with Kobe. Like Kobe's his whole career was injuries. Like he had injuries that he played through. Sure, you could say, all right, they weren't super serious, but I'm sorry, bro. I seen Kobe walk onto the court to shoot off of a torn Achilles, and the reason for it was because he thought that they could tape it back up so he could come back. Like
Kobe's limitations with injuries is just like your body can only do so much. So like if Kobe could play out there and be effective with a busted Achilles, he absolutely would. And McGrady's injuries being back problems, like that is Larry Bird was able to do it, but like it's hard to like be that same guy and perform at a high level with back issues.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying Kobe if he had the same injuries, but I'm just saying another thing is Kobe took care of his body. There's a reason they talk about how he was so psycho about it. Like Tracy McGrady wasn't doing those things in the offseason and even during the season that Kobe was. Like Kobe was, his life was basketball. And then people try to like take that away, like say, oh, he had all these opportunities. Bro, he was working like crazy, and he was showing everybody how he was working harder than them, even though he was talked about as the best player in the league.
Yeah, I mean, well, people always say, like, you know, if I was on the Lakers instead of, you know, Kobe during that era and that sort of thing. I don't know why everybody just assumes Kobe wouldn't competing for championships that year. Because if he's not on the Lakers, he's on another team. And so who's Kobe playing with? Because I tell you what, Kobe in 2001, Kobe in 2002, he was a problem.
Best player in the league. To me, it was literally Shaq was the best player in the league, and I think Kobe was the second best player. You could argue Tim Duncan. Like Tim Duncan is the only one that I'm willing to even listen to, but I really feel like Kobe was definitely the best perimeter player in the league. A lot of people will argue Iverson, but he just didn't play that other side of the ball matters so much too. Like
that
Kobe's
is true.
Doing everything you're doing on with the points as if more efficient especially at that time. And we don't even talk about Kobe for efficiency, but that year in particular in 01, he was efficient. And then he's also a all defensive first team.
Yeah, I mean, say what you want about Kobe's efficiency, you know, from the time he came into the league in 1996 to 2013. If you take his average field goal percentage, he was above league average year in and year out. Yeah. And that's shooting at an extreme volume, you know? And so, I mean, people want to say Kobe's inefficient. He's not MJ efficient, but Kobe was not an inefficient shot chucker. I hate those narratives. But my biggest problem, and, you know, I'll wrap it up with this. My biggest thing with Tracy is it's not him believing that he could win one championship with Shaq. Because I don't know how far I'd make it with Shaq. Like, you know, I don't know how far you'd make it with Shaq. Shaq was amazing. Shaq could take a lot of people really far.
Yeah,
you know?
Part of the reason Orlando didn't win in '95, like it was partially because of Shaq's leadership. Like, right before the
Phil Jackson
NBA
helped
finals,
with that though.
Phil
Jackson definitely helps with that though.
Yeah, I mean 100%. But sure, he would definitely have fell there. That's true. But I don't know if he. We'll see. Yeah, okay, I like that. But definitely, if Shaq's the main leader and he's the one running the show, it's scary. And 95 proves that because they were great. They looked dominant, but going into that, and they looked like they should be the young spruce team or whatever. And that veteran Hakeem just gave him the little work, and he was not ready for it. He was not prepared for it.
Well, plus Shaq didn't start winning until Kobe ascended to the player who could help him win. Because it's not like Shaq didn't have a ton of help before Kobe became that guy. Because even in Los Angeles, they were a great team. And a lot of people thought in 1998, when they went on to win 61 games in the regular season with 4 All-Stars in their team, they had Nick Van Exel, who was the show on the Lakers before Shaq and Kobe showed up. He also had Eddie Jones, who was one of the elite two-way players at the time. He had a lot of quality talent on that team, and they couldn't win. And it wasn't until Kobe became that co-star that now the Lakers are ascending. Now the Lakers are taking it to the next level because Kobe can take those last shots. Kobe can take over in the fourth quarter when Shaq a lot of the time is on the bench because he can't make free throws and they're implementing the hack-a-Shaq. Yeah. But again, my problem with McGrady is not him having confidence in himself. It's the excuse that I didn't have opportunities when you did. You squandered your Vince Carter opportunity. You had some opportunities with the Rockets, but you weren't healthy. That's you can't just pretend that's somebody else's fault. That's at the end of the day, that's on you. And once upon a time, you said it was on you. And I didn't forget that.